Many approach the Book of Daniel as a collection of children's stories or a cryptic roadmap to the end times. Beneath those layers, the book functions as a highly engineered textual anomaly. It holds a prominent place among the major prophets of the Old Testament, yet it breaks the traditional rules of biblical prophecy. The book is split straight down the middle by two entirely different literary genres. Chapters 1 through 6 are court narratives, straightforward stories of political survival within the bureaucracy of a foreign royal court. In Chapter 7, the genre shifts to apocalyptic visions. The narrative gives way to bizarre, chaotic, and highly symbolic imagery. This severe clash of genres within a single manuscript forces a difficult question. Are we reading one cohesive book, or two different texts stitched together? The puzzle deepens when we examine the original text. While most of the Old Testament is written in Hebrew, Daniel contains a massive block of Aramaic, the commercial language used across the Persian Empire. These 12 columns represent the chapters, 6 narrative and 6 apocalyptic. Mapping linguistic data over this reveals a paradox. Hebrew covers the ends, while Aramaic covers the middle. Chapter 7 is apocalyptic, but Aramaic, disrupting the book's clean division. This structural matrix proves Daniel cannot be read as a simple linear story. It must be decoded by mapping it across two entirely distinct historical horizons. The first historical horizon is the Babylonian exile of the 6th century BC. By 587 BC, Jerusalem has fallen, the temple is burned, and the Jewish elite are held captive in Babylon. This specific historical era is the setting for chapters 1 through 6, the court narratives. A massive geopolitical shift eventually occurs when Babylon falls to the rising Persian Empire. The Persian ruler Cyrus issued a decree allowing the Jewish exiles to return to their land and rebuild the Second Temple. The first half of Daniel functions as a survival guide for this period, teaching exiles how to maintain their identity while serving inside overwhelming foreign imperial courts. The timeline shifts forward over 200 years to the power vacuum left by the death of Alexander the Great. Alexander's Greek empire fractured, parceled out among his sparring military generals. Two successor dynasties matter for decoding Daniel: the Seleucids in the Syrian north and the Ptolemies in the Egyptian south. These empires were locked in a perpetual struggle for dominance. Judea is the land between, physically trapped on the fault line of these warring factions. The Jewish people are no longer serving in a distant court. They are now trapped in their own homeland under the weight of endless Greek civil wars. This Hellenistic crisis reaches its climax around 167 BC, during the reign of the Seleucid king Antiochus IV Epiphanes. Under Antiochus, the Jewish people faced forced Hellenization and the outlawing of their religious practices. The crisis culminated in the brutal desecration of the Second Temple, rendering it unusable through pagan statues and unclean sacrifices. A fierce Jewish resistance rose up in response to this existential threat. The successful Maccabean revolt in 164 BC reclaimed the temple, eventually leading to a period of hard-won sovereignty. This hyper-violent 2nd century persecution is the true historical target of the apocalyptic visions found in the second half of Daniel. The chaotic imagery of chapters 7 through 12 provides a visual vocabulary for the trauma of the Antiochus crisis. Apocalyptic literature uses cosmic, bizarre symbols to describe real-world political horrors. While Daniel the character is depicted having these visions back in the Babylonian era, the details explicitly mirror the events of the 2nd century BC. The cryptic kings of the north and south in Daniel's visions map onto the Seleucid and Ptolemaic proxy wars. The text functions as a coded, underground message about a specific historical trauma. Daniel's apocalyptic half offers a cosmic perspective to a localized catastrophe, proving to its readers that God is sovereign over even the most terrifying empires. We can now bring these two historical horizons back into a single framework: the exilic period for the court stories and the Hellenistic period for the visions. The final book of Daniel operates on both frequencies simultaneously. Scholars across the theological spectrum rely on this dual horizon framework to navigate the book's internal contradictions. While the exact date of authorship remains a subject of fierce debate, both critical and evangelical scholars use this historical map to decode the text. The structural anomaly is a deliberate feature, leveraging the historical memory of the 6th century exile to encourage those facing the 2nd century crisis. Daniel is far more than a disparate collection of disjointed stories and weird dreams. The Book of Daniel functions as a highly engineered, unified piece of ancient resistance literature. It reminded a deeply marginalized people of their true foundational identity, especially when they were completely surrounded by powerful, hostile cultures. The book teaches its readers how to live faithfully when crushed between the gears of global superpowers. Daniel stands as an enduring intellectual monument, arguing that despite the endless, violent churn of human empires, ultimate sovereignty rests entirely outside the reach of kings.